We are all going to die one day, and if we have to waste what little time we've got playing video games, they better be the right ones. Today we are looking at Warface Breakout, a game that isn't free to play, but given my history with the series, I think it's fair to ask, is it worth my time? Warface Breakout is weird because it's a new game in the Warface series. Kinda. Warface Breakout is a spin-off of the free-to-play FPS Warface that I've talked about in the past. It's actually the most popular video on this channel, which is why I decided to take a look at this new one. Breakout takes the popular game mode Search and Destroy and focuses an entire game around it. It's basically taking Counter-Strike's formula from PC and bringing it to consoles. The game has been criticized, however, for taking some of its assets from the previously free-to-play game and reworking them into a new package. But now, with a $20 price tag attached, is Warface Breakout worth my time? And, more importantly, worth my money. So as mentioned, Warface Breakout focuses on one main game mode, Search and Destroy, or Plant the Bomb as it's called in Warface. The Counter-Strike games on PC are known for popularizing this game mode, where one team attacks trying to plant a bomb while the other team defends trying to stop them. Now, most console shooters have some variation of this game mode, but surprisingly the Counter-Strike series itself hasn't been released on consoles since 2012. Maybe its fast-paced precision gameplay wasn't a good fit for consoles, or maybe everyone was just playing Call of Duty, but for whatever reason Counter-Strike never took off on consoles, leaving a gap in the market for someone to come along and fill.
So when the stakes are high and things get messy, you leave the dirty work to the professionals.
So they dug out Warface from the storage closet, grabbed one of the game modes, some of the maps, a few weapons, and even a CD that got left in there. That's weird, and they got to work. Warface Breakout is clearly built on top of the original Warface, reusing the engine and a few elements, but with some things changed to make it feel more like its own game. Here we have the Wardens and the Reapers, fighting for control of the generic name generators found on each map. Some of the maps are taken directly from Warface, like the Egyptian archaeology site, but most of them do seem original, at least in overall design. But even in cases where the maps are reused, new elements have been added, making them more detailed and giving them a different feel. Some guns are also reused, but modified to look a little bit different and use more custom animations. Now, because this is a paid game and a competitive game at that, all of the weapons are unlocked from the beginning. There are 4 of each type of weapon, and each team has its own unique variation, so really it's 8. 8 different handguns, SMGs, shotguns, assault rifles, and sniper rifles, not to mention a large assortment of knives. I wonder why they put so much focus on those in this game. Gun customization is also in there, but is somewhat limited compared to the original Warface, only allowing players to change their sights. Gone is the system in previous games where you could hold up your gun and adjust attachments on the fly. It's a shame, since it could have been interesting in a game mode like this, and it would have helped a game stand out a little bit from the games it's trying to replicate. I mean, I can see it in the trailer now. Be ready for any situation. Long range. Close quarters. Silent assassin. You know, stuff like that. Only certain guns in Counter-Strike have scopes, but in Breakout they let you change them all you want, so why not keep it in-game? Weirdly, you can still hold up the gun as if this menu is still available, but nothing happens? Did they just forget to remove the button, or is this like their lazy workaround to look at the gun's skin? In most games with this feature, you know, they hold it up and they flip it around or something special. Maybe this was a corner cut before release, like they wanted to animate it but ran out of time. Either way, it looks cheap. I'm surprised because unlocking new skins and showing them off is part of the game's progression. Speaking of unlocks, I was pretty disappointed in the lack of ducks in Breakout. I mean, there's this eagle. I guess if you paint him yellow, there you go, make him squeak. Close enough. Warface Breakout also brings some gameplay changes compared to the original. Warface was a fast-paced run-and-gun type game, taking inspiration from stuff like Call of Duty. Even with that inspiration though, Warface always felt a bit heavier with rigid character movement and animations. Well, let me just say Warface Breakout makes the original Warface look like Speedy Goddamn Gonzales.
Only the fastest mouse can make it, which is me. not the slowest mouse, which is you.
Considering this game wants to be the Counter-Strike of consoles, it's surprising how slow it feels. This is clearly a game designed for consoles, slowing everything down to work better with controllers. Now, I haven't played a competitive FPS on consoles in a long time, but the game makes me feel like I'm playing through syrup. When I move and aim, everything just feels sticky, if that makes any sense. I just want to after every match. It kind of reminds me of Killzone at times, lumbering around like I'm walking inside a pool. They even got rid of the slide from Warface, one of the only good feeling mechanics it had. Now, I do know this movement speed is intentional, with maps that are relatively small and densely packed. The more I played, the more I did get used to it, but I just never quite shook that sticky feeling. Another small hiccup is climbing up on ledges. You can only climb on specific items that are designated, which is fine, but you have to be directly in front of them for it to even activate. Several times trying to climb up stuff, I would either fall off or just stand there and do nothing. In the original Warface, this was fine, but in Breakout, every second counts when trying to get into position. It's just a bit too finicky considering the game wants to be a serious competitive shooter. Despite these issues, most of the time the game handles well enough, and I can't say I ever felt cheated out of a kill because of them. Thought has clearly gone into these maps' designs because they seem pretty fair and balanced, team distances to objectives seem right, and there wasn't really a map where one team always seemed to dominate. Like any game, eventually you'll learn people's routes and positions and be able to predict where enemies are coming from. That's actually one of my biggest problems with games like this, just how repetitive they can be. You spawn in, buy a weapon, pick from a few different paths to attack or defend, and then, do it again. Obviously it's more involved than that, but teams usually meet up in the same locations every time with only a few variations. Now, I can see why the repetitive nature of these games is good for competition. I mean, no one is saying, wow, basketball is so repetitive, it's just the same thing back and forth, back and forth. But as someone who's just playing for fun, I can really feel every match just kind of blend together because it's almost the same every time. Breakout is kind of a weird game to compare when it comes to its presentation. The game is clearly running on the same engine as Warface, but I found that it runs a little bit more consistently, probably because it was designed for consoles in mind. It is running on tech from 2013, however, and it never really shakes that feeling of being a high-res Xbox 360 game. The original Warface gets a pass because, it's a port of an older game from 2013. But if they're gonna treat this like a new game, then I think they need some new features. I will say the art style is much better than the original Warface, which always looked a little plain and generic. Some maps here are dark and moody, while others are vibrant with bright colors. Even maps that have been reused are overhauled, with new lighting and added details, making them feel different. I'm sure the development team tried their best with the aging tech they had, and some of it does shine through, but with some games already giving us a glimpse of what the next generation will look like, this game is clearly stuck in the past. It's not just the graphics, but Breakout's general presentation is also kind of lacking. Right off the bat, the game's main screen is just a static image, and not like a static image, like an image of static, because that's what it is, but it doesn't move at all. I know it's just a stupid title screen where you just press a button, but it's the first impression a player gets. I mean, is the CryEngine not capable of playing back GIFs? I mean, here, let me fix it. To go along with the bad presentation, there is some of the most generic and out-of-date music I've heard in a long time. It made me feel like I was in high school again. Oh wow, dubstep, the hot new thing of 2010. It's honestly pretty cringy. The game just feels uninspired, from the generic Wardens versus Reapers, to the character design of Slight Future dudes, to the 2012 generic knockoff Skrillex dubstep music. It gives off a feeling of a game that no one really wanted to make. A memo probably came down from corporate that said, make a Counter-Strike clone as cheaply as you can, reuse that Warface engine if you have to, just do it. Now, this is usually the part in the video where I talk about the game's monetization, how does it make its money? But since this is a paid game, there really isn't much to talk about. Wrong. Warface Breakout might cost you $20, but it's got just as much money-making nonsense as the worst free-to-play games. They didn't just copy Counter-Strike's gameplay, but also its money-making practices. Everything from your character, guns, and knives have skins that you can unlock, and guess how you unlock them? While most of the industry has realized loot boxes are pretty scummy and basically gambling, Warface Breakout's like, nah, we're going old school with this. I know Counter-Strike had similar loot box gambling, but at least there the game had been out for years and still had a very active community. Breakout asks for more money day one, and that's not cool. Really, for a game in 2020 to be so bluntly stuffed with loot boxes feels weird, just like the outdated music. Come on guys, we've moved past this. The game just came out, but there's a tab for Season 1 starting soon, which I'm sure will have some sort of season pass, and really it seems like they'll do anything to just make an extra buck. Loot boxes, skins, season passes, expansion packs on floppy disks. I mean, why not? Anything that's made people money before, just put it in there. You know what's weird? I started writing this review with a generally positive outlook on the game. I didn't mind the game reusing some assets because of how they reworked them. I didn't even mind the loot boxes that much since I was never going to put money into this game I already paid $20 for anyways. And for a budget title, what was I expecting, right? But now that I've written it all out, I have to ask, why should you play Warface Breakout over everything else that's available? And I can't answer that. I booted up the original Warface to check out their original search and destroy mode, and sure, it's a bit different with an extra few players, but it's more or less the same type of thing. I even booted up Modern Warfare Remastered because it just happened to be downloaded and realized that's a better option too. It made me realize it wasn't just my lack of console FPS experience making Breakout feel slow, it was the game. As I said in the beginning, most console FPS games have their own search and destroy modes, so why not just play one of those? What, because this game has a buying menu? Is that really the only difference? That little bit of extra strategy you get from earning cash and buying different weapons? If you care about something that small, then you know what? Get a PC, play Counter-Strike, join a real community that's been going strong for decades. They made Breakout a console exclusive at launch because they knew on the PC they just couldn't compete. I think a PC release would fix a lot of my control gripes, but even then the game is still uninspired. I don't think it fails at everything. Like I said, the art style is pretty cool in places, and it functions well enough as an imitation to similar competitive shooters, but the controls are sluggish and the game's monetization makes it really hard to recommend over older, better games. If they make the game free to play and continue working on it, then maybe check it out. But right now, Warface Breakout is not worth my $20, and at the end of the day, it's not really worth my time. Thank you so much for watching, and a special thanks to everyone on Patreon who helps support this channel. There's a link in the description below if you'd like to join.